I need your help because my nephew is coming to town and I gave him, I don't know, like an ultimatum, and I really need Auntie Erin's help.
What did you do?
So, my nephew, not the one that's been on the podcast, but another nephew is engaged, right? You know this. He's engaged and they're a really young couple, but they're working on wedding plans. So, they're actually coming to town this weekend because his fiance is going wedding dress shopping. So that's super exciting, right? To start, super exciting. Anyway, they called us like, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago now. And I knew that they were looking for something. Like I could just tell. I don't get a lot of phone calls from my nephew. I get like text messages and stuff, but they called us. And it's the two of them together. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's happening? Anyway, turns out they would like to hire Uncle Nick to do photography for the wedding.
Oh,
Yeah, Nick did photography for my sister when she got married. This is like a thing that he does. And of course, we're not charging for this. Nick is just going to take photos. So Nick is in the background and he's, yeah, sure, no problem, absolutely. And then I stepped in. I feel like you were with me in spirit, Erin. I stepped in and I said, I absolutely, Uncle Nick will take your photos for you on one condition.
I'm like the ghost of Christmas future, like with the chains rattling. Okay, what did I say through
I
you?
said, on one condition, I said, we need to have a serious conversation about all your finances before the two of you get married.
Oh, good job, Auntie Carrie.
Yeah, but now I have to do it.
Oh, so I see what this is about. Now you're going to make me do
Yeah,
it so that you can
yeah.
just.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to this episode. I'm gonna take notes, and then I'm just gonna regurgitate to my nephew this weekend. Okay?
So exciting. I'm super glad that they asked you. Here's what Uncle Nick needs to do in the future. Uncle Nick, you can say, yes, I will do it. It will cost you $538, which is the amount you have to put in your tax-free savings account or whatever amount he comes up with, right? If
Yeah.
you invest in you, I will invest in you in the photography. Uncle Nick, that was a miss, but that was an A plus for Carrie.
Okay, good. Uncle Nick, see, it's his fault, not mine.
Yeah. No, I think that's so cool. I think that's really cool. I want an invite to this wedding, kids. I want an invite to this wedding. Auntie Erin would like to cut a rug. Auntie Erin only goes to funerals now. Auntie Erin's at the age where all the weddings have happened, all the baby showers have happened, and now I'm in funeral city, where it's like every other week it's like a funeral. And I'm tired of going to those, so I need to go to a wedding. Please send my invite in the mail.
Okay, it depends on what your advice is going to be. Let's hear it, and then
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get you on the invite list.
So is this a just a general relationship, or is this like planning for the wedding?
Not for the wedding, not for the
Okay.
wedding. This is life in general. I want to set them up for their future. Like I
Oh
really
yeah.
would like to just have them be set in a way that I never was. I just feel my sister has made some smarter moves financially lately, but you know how your kids just don't listen to you necessarily when it comes to this stuff?
Yeah.
They're not going to listen to her, regardless of how smart she is. So I feel like Auntie Carrie is somebody that they will pay attention to.
Yeah.
But I am holding over the photography carrot, though, over their heads, just to be clear.
Okay, here's the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna listen, but we don't judge. We're gonna
Okay.
play that game because when you're in a new relationship, it's very easy to assume that everybody spends money the way you do or the way you were raised. Do you use a credit card? Do you believe in credit card points? By the way, the photography is going to cost you more and more the worse you answer these questions, kids. So if you're like, yes, we use credit cards for points, Auntie Erin's racking up the fee of the free photography.
For every wrong answer,
Every
the
wrong
cost
answer,
of photography goes up. Okay.
yeah, and technically there are no wrong answers, but because you're like my nephew's by proxy,
Yeah.
my niece by proxy, there's going to be a right answer for you. But for anybody else, there's not a right answer. But what you want to really figure out is what is your relationship to debt? Do you currently have any debt? That has to be disclosed up front before you get married. You really got to talk about what you're each bringing to the table in terms of assets and liabilities. And those who are so young and so cute because they knew right away. Some people are like that. They're just so lucky. Like they meet in high school and they just know, or they meet just out of high school or in college or when they're working, right? And they're young and they just know this is my person. And then they're together for 50 years and that's cool. Some of you have had some bumps and bruises and you've kissed a few frogs along the way. And then those frogs have gotten better at kissing, but they're still frogs and they've moved on. And then you caught a few of those too. Depending on where you're at, you might be entering the relationship with debt or maybe some assets. Maybe one of you has an inheritance. All those things have to be disclosed, but they have to be disclosed when it's appropriate. You can't just be like, here's a piece of paper, here's all my assets and liabilities, because some things aren't safe. Like you have to tread conversations carefully because there are instances where somebody might not be equipped to handle certain things. If you've got a partner that relies on credit or loans and has a lot of debt and reckless spending, and you've got some kind of inheritance or something, you got to be very careful with that information
Mhm.
because one can easily wipe out the other. And I know that when you get married, there are certain people, certain financial gurus who believe it's all joint now, anyways. But the truth is, you can protect yourself from some of those things if the relationship doesn't work out. But the first and most important piece of all of this is this disclosure, but it has to come when it's appropriate. And you know when it's appropriate when you have a sense of discernment. So if you're the type of person who you just blab everything to everybody all the time and it gets burned, you're not going to go first.
Mhm.
If you're the type of person who you're very private and you hold everything back, you're also not going to go first. So what you have to do is you have to wade into this very carefully. We actually have a list of questions that you can download off the website, and we'll post them here in the show notes for you. And those of you that are in the Get the Hell Out of Debt community, we can email them out to you or we can post them in there also. But there's a list of questions for couples, whether you're heterosexual or whether in a same-sex relationship or any combination of poly relationship. There are questions that you can ask each other. And the idea behind those questions is not to sit down all at once and plow through 4 hours of deep, intimate conversation. I know that there are some women that would love that. I think you're one of them. You're like, let's
Yeah.
get to it.
We'll do them all at once. Are you kidding?
And most men are like, okay, I did three. Can we talk about Transformers? I just need a brain break. So you have to go at the level of intimacy that the shallowest person is at. So there are 5 layers of intimacy. This is in the book Naked Money Meetings for those of you that are like, where have I heard this before? So this is in the book Naked Money Meetings. And there are 5 layers of intimacy, which means the first layer is like you and a stranger. Hi, how's the weather? Great, whatever. That's a first layer of intimacy. You're having a conversation, but it's about nothing of substance. The next layer of intimacy is you're having a conversation with somebody and they're expressing their political opinions or their opinions about something or the way they feel, but it doesn't affect you because you're not in an intimate relationship with them. And you might take that information back to your partner and say something like, my Uber driver thinks that the president of the United States should do this, that, or the other. So it's not you saying it. So there's no emotional vulnerability required, but you are bringing it up to see how the other person feels. You're like dipping your toe in the water. Then there's more layers all the time. But eventually, the fifth layer of intimacy is where you get to in a relationship where you are completely known, seen, and loved for who you are. Nobody's trying to change you, nobody's trying to fix you. You can be totally you, and they can be totally them. Now, it doesn't mean you run amok. You're still careful and protective of each other's relationships, but you are allowed to be you no matter what. All of that's to say, when you're starting out, you're dipping your toes in the water. You can't just go from a level 0 to a level 5 right away, especially when you're talking about money. So you can't just be like, okay, let's get married and tell me all about your money. What have you got? Like you're trying to jump to level 5. You have to be like, okay, let's talk about spending patterns. Let's talk about our paychecks. Let's talk about how we're going to share. Are we going to have a joint account or do you want separate accounts? Or do you want a combination of one joint account for shared expenses and two separate accounts where we each earn our own money, provided we're each an income earner? Like, what do we want this to look like? And you start to dream and talk in hypotheticals. And then eventually you work your way to the place of, this is what I'm going to take responsibility for. Is that okay with you? And the other person would say, this is what I'm going to take responsibility. Is that okay with you? But you will never say, this is what you're taking responsibility for.
Yep.
You're going to decide for you. So that's how you broach the whole topic to begin with. And of course, I'll send the kids a copy of Naked Money Meetings, each of them, so they can each have their own copy and they can talk about it in depth. But the other piece that I think we have to look at, the things that we have to prepare for, is 99 years of age. And this is something I learned 30 years ago from our friend Jen, who we never did get those rocking chair tattoos that we were going to get on the girls' trip.
No, we because we need a better design. We did
Yeah.
not get the tattoos. We went on a girls' trip recently. We were going to get tattoos. I had a crazy idea to get that done. And we talked about it the whole time we were away. We were talking about it and looking up ideas, and it morphed from this elements idea I had into doing this rocking chair thing, which is what you're talking about. And I do think that we'll do it, right? At some point. We
Well, I
just
don't think Kara's sold on the rocking chair. I don't
oh,
think
I'm
Kara
not
doesn't
sure.
want a rocking
Yeah,
chair.
yeah, I'm not sure. But maybe she just, it's because the rocking chairs we've seen are ugly.
We need a good rocking chair design. If you actually are a doodler, go ahead and send us a rocking chair design. We might get it tattooed somewhere on our bodies.
Yeah, it needs to be really small. It needs to be like literal line work, and that's it. But it's meaningful. So tell the nice people why the rocking chair.
So Jen always approaches everything when we were struggling when we were younger, whether it be with relationships or health or whatever. Jen would always put us on our deathbeds. She'd tuck us in, don't worry. She didn't just like body slam us there. But she would say things like, when you look back on this problem when you're 99, how are you going to feel about it? And that always allowed us to see past the problem. It was such a brilliant strategy. And so I use it all the time and have used it all the time since. But when it comes to your money and your relationship, you got to look at this relationship as if you're both going to make it to the age of 99 and be married. That's the lens with which you view your marriage all the time. Because otherwise, when fights come up, and they will, in the middle of the fight, you're thinking of leaving. I don't know about you, but you ever been in a fight where you're like, I'm done with this man?
Sure, of course.
Jared and I joke all the time that I can tell when he's had it with, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, you're in your van right now, aren't you? And he's, yeah. And his version is, if we fight so bad, which, never happens, thankfully. Thankfully, we're past all that stuff. But in the days when we would have those blowout fights, I could see that he'd mentally checked out. And I was like, where are you right now? And he's, you know what I'm going to do if something ever happens to you? He'd say, I'm going to get in a van. I'm going to go in the middle of nowhere with no cell service. It was like, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to live off the grid. Nobody will be able to find me. Like, I'm just going to go pout in peace. And mine was, I'm going to move to Paris and I'm going to eat croissants on a cafe, and some handsome Parisian in a beret is going to hit on me, and I'm going to go with the first guy I see. So we joke when we're talking about something that's difficult. I'm like, are you in your van right now? And he's like, yeah. I'm in my van. Or he'll say to me, are you in Paris right now? I'm like, yeah, I'm in Paris. And then that tells us, like, okay, rein it in, focus on each other. Because you got to look past that, right? You got to look past. So at the age of 99, when we've made it, this conversation today won't hold any charge. And so if it doesn't matter to our 99-year-old selves, how do we take away the charge now?
Yeah,
And so then that question is like, how are we going to both get through this together? We're on the same team. We're not arguing against each other. How do we focus? But that also comes with planning. So if you want to be 99, happily married, on those deathbeds holding hands like Noah and Allie from the Notebook, crossing the Rainbow Bridge at the same time. Is it just Rainbow Bridge for pets, or do we cross the Rainbow Bridge too?
I don't know if Rainbow Bridge.
This is what the internet says. The Rainbow Bridge is a comforting metaphor often used to describe the place where pets go after they die.
Okay, so I want to go there too. It sounds lovely.
So when you and I cross the Rainbow Bridge with all of our cats, what happens is we have to look back and go, did we set our lives up for success so that what we need in our most difficult stage of life is cared for?
Mm.
Or are we struggling? Are we alone? Do we have children around us? Do we have proper medical care? Are we in a beautiful home where we have a bit of independence or whatever? Or are we struggling because we lived it up when we were young and didn't properly plan for retirement? And so those decisions have to align. We have to make decisions today based on how we're going to get there. So the first decisions you're going to make as married couples, before you even you're going to figure out the checking account, you're going to do all of that. But then the first decision you're going to make is retirement decisions together.
That's so cool. I love that idea anyway, just to be dreaming about what your future looks like.
Yeah.
What a great way to start things, is to have a common vision of where you're going.
Yeah. And you work backwards from there. So you might not understand money yet. If you're young and starting out, you might not know yet what amount of money you're going to need to save. That's okay. But at least have a vision and hold a vision. And then you're going to max out every possible registered account that you qualify for. So some of you qualify for disability accounts. You're going to max those out. Some of you qualify for Roth IRAs or 401ks or RSPs, TFSAs, any of those things that your government counts as a registered account based on where you live, you're going to max those out. Those contributions happen first. After that, we figure out what's our housing, what's our vehicle situation, What are we going to spend our money on? All of that. Because if you know that future is taken care of, it puts so much less pressure on the present. And even if in the beginning, because cost of living is so high when you're young, even though it might not feel like a lot now, because you are young and starting out, you've got the power of years ahead of you to take advantage of compounding. And this is true if you're in your 50s. Because I hear some people say, oh, the old story we talked about last episode, the old story is I'm in my 50s and so it's too late, or 60s and it's too late. And it's not. That's an old story and it's not true, but you have to start looking at life and treating money differently. You have to start paying yourself first, taking that amount off the top that's going to take care of you in retirement first, and then spending what's left on the rest of life.
I heard on another podcast that I was listening to, they were talking about something else, but they were talking about when is the best time to start something. And the best time to start something was like when you were as young as possible. So you were 18 years old. When is the next best thing to start something? Right now.
Yeah, that's the old proverb, right? When's the best
I
time to
love it.
plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today. It's
Yeah.
absolutely true. And the problem is a lot of people throw away a lot of today's because 10 years ago you wished you'd started 10
Yeah.
years before.
Yeah.
And then 10 years ago you didn't start. So now if you don't start now, 10 years from now, you're gonna be like, I wish I'd started when Aaron and Carrie were yapping on about Carrie's nephew, who's now 10 years into a marriage and is wealthier than you ever imagined because he's putting his money first. You at some point have to draw a line in the sand and go, enough is enough. I've not been doing this in the right order. We've got to start doing it in the right order now. Here's the other piece that they need to start discussing right away, which isn't money related, but it's so important, is family. What are the boundaries around people interfering in their finances?
That's a
So
good one.
there's this whole thing in the ancient texts that we all know that talks about leaving and cleaving the parents. That's the old saying, that's what it was called, right? But the importance of that is they become a unit when they become married, and they have to be careful not to let anybody in. It's almost like they have an invisible hula hoop around them because, especially when you're young, everybody's going to have an opinion about what you need to do. And that's very different than you seeking out advice. So I want you to have that person. I want you to have an Auntie Carrie or an Auntie Erin to go to if you have a question. Absolutely. But you have to put a barrier around unsolicited advice, which is going to come from mom and dad and cousins and everybody else that's going to tell you how you need to live your life. It's silly. And the other piece is it removes your autonomy because then you're constantly then still attached to other people who are making decisions for you. Somebody's going to say, oh, you need to buy a house now. You need to buy a car. You need to buy a trailer. You need to buy whatever. And if you're listening to all of those other people, you're basically looking at their lives and going, oh, good, I'm going to make all the same mistakes you made. So don't listen to those people. Listen to what you know is true or the thing that gets you to your 99-year-old goal, which is probably, and every 99-year-old would probably say, I wish I had taken better care of my finances in my 20s and 30s so I didn't have so much pain later on in life. And so making harder decisions now in those 20s and 30s is going to set you up for so much success later, but that's going to include boundaries. Saying, okay, this week we are going to eat out twice and we're going to put an extra $50 in our retirement. And then doing it, that's going to build your financial confidence in each other. It's going to build massive trust with each other. It's going to build financial intimacy with each other. And it's going to set you up for so much more success than just trying to wing it like most people do.
Mm. Okay, it's good. I'm taking notes. What else you got?
Okay, I've rambled, and I tell you what, I do have this in a succinct list. So why don't we quickly go through the list?
Okay, yes, I love a list. You know how much I like a list.
Okay, first, money mindsets and upbringing. So, how did each of you grow up with money? Was it scarce or abundant? Was it a source of stress and power? Because we know our childhood scripts often shape adult behavior.
Right.
And that's the list that we will send you. It's got a bunch of really great questions. You just do a couple a day, you listen to each other without judgment, and you just get to know each other better.
Okay.
Two, debt disclosure. We already talked about that, right? Student loans, credit card balances, a loan you forgot to mention. You don't want to be at the bowling alley on date night and somebody comes and takes out your legs. Like we want to disclose, lay it all out. It's also important to realize that like honesty is a non-negotiable when you're building trust, and people confuse honesty with the truth. And so they'll dance around the truth, but you just have to be fully honest. If I said to you, were you at the coffee shop yesterday?
Okay.
And you say no, but you were at the bakery yesterday having coffee. Is it telling the truth? So it's like people dance around those gray areas. You got to be fully honest. And it has to be safe for you to be fully honest and safe for your partner to be fully honest. So, how you react to things, I know I've talked about this a million times, but when little children lie for the first time, how you react to that changes their relationship to lying.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is a side note and a deep dive. So, if you've got little kids or whatever, when you punish kids for lying, it's usually they're lying because they don't feel safe to tell you the truth. Like they're worried they're going to get in trouble. And so if they're going to get in trouble either way, they might try and lie because they're trying to avoid whatever the other punishment was. It's the same with grown-ups. If you fly off the handle when your partner tells you something, especially if they made a mistake, they're probably not going to tell you the truth or they're going to dance around the truth it's not safe for them to be honest with you. So you've got to make it safe for your partner to be honest with you. And then if they misuse that trust or they abuse that trust, then you know who you're dealing with and it's a different decision. But I just see so many people go, I wish my partner would be honest with me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't want to tell you anything at all right now. Get out of
Yeah.
my life, right? So the third thing that you want to discuss is spending habits and triggers. So do you impulse buy when you're stressed? Does your partner splurge on tech the minute something's released? Knowing each other's tendencies help you avoid judgment and instead plan around them so that you can figure, oh, you know what? The new iPhone 79 is getting released. Are you going to want that? Are we going to sell your old one? What could we do in order to come up with money so that you can have this thing that Erin thinks is completely useless and unnecessary, but you might think is important? It's up to you. And then number four is savings priorities. Are you saving for a house or a vacation or emergency fund or a honeymoon? What are you saving for? So you want to talk about your short-term goals and your long-term goals. That's different than your retirement money. Like long-term savings is for things like that you're going to eventually spend. Investments and retirement is for money that's going to create money bunnies and breed more money bunnies so that you're not actually killing the investment. You're living off of the dividends or the profits or whatever from the investment. Then number five is income and career goals. So who earns what and who earns what later? Like in 5 years, is one of you going to stay home with kids? Do either one of you eventually want to start a business? Those are things to discuss pretty early on. And then number six is joint or separate accounts, like we talked about. Things will evolve. So whatever you decide in the beginning of your relationship isn't set in stone for the whole relationship. If somebody has a moral failing and finances derail a bit and you've only ever had a joint account, it's perfectly appropriate to be like, you know what? I think I'd like to have my own separate account. If you build really great trust and things are going well and you're like, we actually don't need three accounts, let's just have a joint account, you can make that decision later too. But you don't have to make a decision today when you're looking out on the horizon of your life and you don't know what's going to happen. You have to make a financial decision now that you've got to stick to no matter what. It's just important to constantly communicate. And then number seven, financial boundaries with families and friends, as we talked about. What happens if your other nephew wants to borrow money? Are you going to lend money to your sibling?
Right.
Cover Auntie's expenses in the future. If Auntie wants to go on a trip, are you going to pay? Right?
The answer to that is yes, but
Setting
everyone else is a no.
Yes, yeah, fair. And so setting boundaries is really important to protect your relationship. Lifestyle expectations is number eight. That's how often do you eat out or travel or buy gifts? Some people budget for luxury, others for freedom. So you have to be aligned. I will tell you, my partner, when we started dating, was terrible at gifts.
Mm.
And I'd look over at Carrie and I'd be like, oh, are those new earrings? And she was like, Nick bought them for me, no big deal. I also got the matching necklace at Christmas. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. Right on. Different expectations. So you have to know what's fair, what's expected, or what's appropriate for your financial income. And then number nine, of course, is emergency plans and insurance. So do you both have life insurance or wills or plans in case one of you can't work, like disability insurance or critical illness insurance? None of that is fun to talk about, but it's absolutely critical if you're serious about protecting each other. And of course, you are. If you're going to be a married couple, you want to make sure that you're covered if something should happen. And then money roles and responsibilities is number 10. So who is going to manage the bills? Who tracks the investments? Who's the budget boss? I hate that because I really don't think there should be anybody that's just the boss. But sometimes in some relationships, it makes sense to have one person in charge of it as long as both people have equal access. You can divide the financial labor to prevent burnout or resentment. And that's it. Nice, easy checklist, right? Nothing too major.
Nothing too major. But you know what? The thing is, I wish that I would have gone over this stuff with Nick too. And I think one of the things I'm also going to tell these kiddos is that, you have to revisit the list too, because it's going to change. If I think back to what we were like as newlyweds, we are 100,000 miles away from what life used to be.
Yeah.
And it would probably serve us well to go through the list now.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you guys like? I don't even remember what you
Babies.
guys
We
were
were
like.
also
You
babies.
were also babies, but did you have similar spending pattern? Did you have financial friction in the beginning?
We certainly didn't have the conversations like we should have way back in the beginning. That's for sure.
Yeah, nobody was. It's really only been a new thing. Like women particularly just
Yeah. Yes. If anything, that's one thing. Oof. Ladies, if you are listening, take an active role. Don't just assume that someone is going to come along and be your knight in shining armor and take everything on. You need to be money savvy too. What advice do you have just overall, not even money related, like marital advice for someone just starting out?
let each other off the hook. I cannot believe how much people nitpick at each other.
Great one. That's so good.
I cannot believe. And I think we hold each other to such judgmental, high, horrible standards. And your partner is just a human, just like you are, doing their very best in their innocence to be human. I'm not talking about abusive situations because those ones we got to kick to the curb. But most of the time, your partner wants you to be happy. So set them up for success. Don't make it difficult for you to be happy.
We need to be each other's biggest champion, I think. That's from the beginning to the end. And even when things are tough, you need to be their number one champion. Okay, what about
Yours, what's yours? What advice would you give?
I was going to move on to the next question.
No, I know. I saw how quickly you tried to get out of answering that. What would you say?
Yeah, I think nitpicking, except you know how the cliche is don't go to bed angry. I just don't think you should hold any of that in. You talked about it on a recent podcast, like resentment in general. You've got to talk about stuff. Don't let anything bubble up inside. It's best to just lay it out on the table and deal.
Yeah. Lay it on the table with ownership, though, right? Own your own part in it. Because I think sometimes you can dump on your partner and be like, here's this giant mess that you've made, clean it up.
Mhm.
But when you can take ownership for your side of the street, it makes such a big difference in the long run, too. So sometimes that looks like I have been totally convinced my husband's been wrong about things. And then I've
Uh,
had a sandwich and I've been like, oh, actually, not quite that bad. So I've had to say things before, like, I need to apologize because if I was abrasive at all in this last week, I just realized I was angry or hanging on to this other thing. 9 times out of 10, the saint of my husband will say something like, oh, I never even noticed. He will often say, your worst day is so much better than most people's best day. Like he says stuff like that to me all the time, which cannot possibly be true, but it's a very kind thing to say.
yes.
But I still own it. So if I wasn't appropriate or if I was too abrasive, it gives him permission to go, yeah, that really hurt my feelings and we can work that out. But if I don't own my side of the street, even if it's not my fault,
Yeah.
it creates a me versus you. And I always want to be us versus them.
Yes. Yes. So good. The thing I've learned from you too is just to use the appropriate language. So it needs to be I feel. Stop saying you or even you made me feel.
Right? Like I see this all the time where people go, you made me angry. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Who even uses that language anymore? But I guess there's people that do that
Yeah.
use that language. And we forget that we have ownership and agency over our own emotions. Insane. Absolute insane. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna ask you about prenups with kids that are just starting out, these youngins, they have nothing. So
Yep.
do we still need a prenup?
Yep.
But what are we prenupping?
Your life.
Hey, listen, I need, wait, I'm getting the pen back out. Okay, go.
Depending on where you live and the state you live in or the country you live in, there are all kinds of different rules. Don't call it a prenup, call it a cohabitation agreement. It just sets out beautiful boundaries for what's going to happen financially and then what happens if something happens. This is also important because it's not, people think, oh, my partner's never going to leave or cheat or whatever. Fine, maybe not. But what if they get in some horrible accident or something and
Mhm.
then because of the way their power of attorney or their insurance works, like their mom has to make decisions for them. Does that mean Their mom now gets to make decisions about your house. There's all kinds of reasons why you need a cohabitation agreement that have nothing to do with you and your partner breaking up, but it's everything to do with you and your partner feeling safe financially. Yes, I'm really sorry, nephew, you're getting a cohabitation agreement. It's just so important. It's an act of love,
Mhm.
and you will probably never need it. In fact, I would even write in the cohabitation agreement a love letter in there and go, wow, if we're using this, things must have gotten really bad. But let me tell you how I felt about you the day I signed it. You are beautiful. You are amazing. I was so excited to do life with you. And whatever happened, I hope we've both learned from it. And I wish you well no matter what, because I want your best interest, to happen. And sometimes even doing something like that takes the sting of having to sign something like that away.
What a great idea. What a great idea. Because if you ever did need it, you are feeling terrible, awful, mad, all the things about your partner at that point, right? You're
Yeah.
feeling all the things. So if you were to read that, wouldn't that just diffuse everything in an instant? That's awesome. I've never heard you say that before.
It's important not to make the cohabitation agreement itself or not to make the prenup mean anything. Don't make the fact that you're signing that be a big deal. It's like any other financial. You could open a bank account, you have to sign 20 pages with the bank to get a bank card and a checking account. And yet, when you're getting married, it's, oh, here's a pinky swear and let's go.
I had done some research before we logged on today to start this podcast episode. And some of the things that I had read about were in order to feel really loved, you have to feel safe. And so that's the purpose of a prenup or a cohabitation agreement, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing that I had read, if you can't have hard conversations, then you shouldn't be getting married in the first place.
Yeah. And I think there's people even like discussing things like sex or
Yeah.
control or lack of birth control or whatever. If you can't talk about all the things, it's not that you shouldn't be getting married. We just need to wait. We just need to wait a little longer.